Good morning, everyone. We are going to start for the second panel with the topic of resuming investment reforms as economic growth engine. Before I start, I'll introduce the three main speakers for today. First, we have to the right side of me, of where I'm sitting, Pak Budi Hidayat, Dr. Insinyur Budi Hidayat, Master of Engineering Science. Pak Budi Hidayat is the main expert planner in the area of transportation of Indonesia National Development Planning Agency, or Bappenas. With Bappenas, Pak Budi has been working in the areas of infrastructure and human capital. Secondly, I would like to introduce Pak Reza Maspaitela, dialing in virtually. Pak Reza is the head of Permanent Committee for Planning at Indonesian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, or Kadin. Pak Reza is also the CEO for PT Valdo Investama and has extensive experience in consumer finance industry, including key positions at Standard Chartered, Allianz, GE Capital, and Citibank Indonesia. Our third speaker is Pak Edi Purwanto, sitting on the far right of the stage. Pak Edi Purwanto is the Chief Financial Officer of Indonesia Investment Authority. Prior to Indonesia Investment Authority, Pak Edi had been a senior expert with Nostar Group and has held director positions at Delta Dunia Makmur, Archipelago Resources, Garuda Indonesia, General Motor Indonesia, and also Reckitt Indonesia. To start, just briefly on the topics today, Indonesians are living in an interesting time where a recovering economy is clashing against global tensions and inflation. At the same time, pandemic risk is easing and the economy itself internally is recovering. From this discussion, we are hoping to understand better how the stakeholders such as industry players and investors are adapting and also making the most out of this unusual situation. To start, I would like to give opportunity first to Pak Budi from Bappenas to give an overview on the national development theme in the next 2 to 5 years from Bappenas' point of view and how the global situation have influenced the planning from the government side. Please, Pak Budi, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Pak Adi, and good morning, everyone. First of all, we know that basically infrastructure is, sometimes they say, the agent of development, agent of economic. So that's why now I'm starting with policy direction for infrastructure development investment in Indonesia. Next. We have a look at the performance of infrastructure in Indonesia. Infrastructure stock is still below the average of developed country stock. And also infrastructure performance index still under Malaysia, under Thailand, and then highest logistic costs. Still 24% of GDP. If we compare, for example, with Japan, is 8%, Singapore, our neighbor, still 8%. So it means that it's inefficient of logistics. Well, next. Have a look at this. The eastern region availability of road infrastructure lower than the western region. The eastern is 0.22 and then western is 0. Ratio of road length per area, 0 of 32. It could be understood that region still to be developing well, in western region has been developed. And also electrification in eastern region is just a little bit similar, but still low than western. Backload from eastern region is low, limited transshipment and feeder port in the eastern. So if we have goods brought to the Ambon, for example, from Surabaya is 100%, and when back just only 30%. It means that when come back from Ambon to Jakarta, also Surabaya, it has to be some cost to make it profit. This is still what they call a big issue in our transportation. And next, travel time in main roads. In Indonesia, still 2.5 hours per 100 kilometer. It means that it can be delayed due to transport itself or the infrastructure itself. I just came from Enggano in Bengkulu. Just 35 kilometers need a travel time 2 hours. So that's why government still spend and invest to build a road is about 170 billion to make it what they call road from east to west. And also for urban mass public transportation. Singapore, don't say Singapore, Tokyo, we just MRT 15.7 kilometer. Perhaps you ever been use it from Lebak Bulus to Hotel Indonesia. But now it developed again to north to Ancol and then starting to east-west for MRT. Per capita storage, well, low access decent housing and high rate of urban slum. Access to drinking water, just only pipe drinking water access 20 and 56 or 21%. I mean piping. This is, so that's why it's part of challenging investment in Indonesia. Next. This major project of infrastructure basically in 2020 and 2024. We have 3 basic infrastructure for basic service to support economic sector and urban infrastructure. Target urban housing 1 million, drinking water access, and infrastructure economic for integrated main port network. What we call is, perhaps you have really know, sea-toll or toll out. Although toll out has been built and then we start, sometimes still have what they call. For example, ship has already been okay, but port haven't been built yet. Something like that. So connectivity still have a problem, issue in respect of some infrastructure. Urban infrastructure, now we're starting to study in respect of 6 metropolitan city. Why 6 metropolitan city? Because the cities, 6 metropolitan cities is about 40% of our GDP. This is very important. Medan, Jakarta, Semarang, Bandung, Surabaya, and Makassar. City gas. I don't know, this is perhaps my friend Putra explain about what gas will be. And energy and electricity, for example, power plant just 27,000 megawatt. Oil refinery development, now been studied as well. ICT, infrastructure support digital transformation. Just now we are talking about that. And infrastructure development target. Next. This is target that has been stated in National Development Plan. Infrastructure for basic, for example, household with access to adequate housing, 70%. But target is 1 million, means that only 70% is sometimes a bit ambitious. And then also high-speed train in Java Island. Plan basically is Jakarta Semarang and Jakarta Bandung. But Jakarta Bandung, we expect that in the end of this year has already been finished because G20, Xi Jinping and Pak Jokowi will be will be starting to try Jakarta Bandung. And also new toll road. especially in Sumatra and Java. Why toll road is so important? For example, I try to asking some driver, especially bus driver, between Jakarta to Surabaya, and they say that this is a so safe time. For example, they just previously before toll road, they just rest is about 2 hours, but now it can be 6 hours. So for social aspect is important one. Urban infrastructure and digital transformation, 95% village mobile broadband coverage. This is if you go to the everywhere especially in Java, broadband has already been okay, internet okay, and whatever. And energy and electricity, 4 million house connecting for city gas. This is target as well. And then next, this is very important. Infrastructure funding framework. We expect that funding is come from private, public-private partnership, state-owned enterprise, and government. But if we have a look here, infrastructure to support economic sector is mostly we expect that from private. Is this possible, or is this ambitious, or is this interesting? Well, we discuss later on. And so that's why from 6,000 trillion, is 30% is government spending, state-owned enterprise is 25%, and then private 42%. Next. This is PPP or public-private sector that covered in Indonesia. Basically, it can be road, water supply, or tourism and sport, but mostly in road, especially toll road, and also electricity. But others is still what they call to be discussed, and due to regulation and many things. And next, this is in the integration concept of development funding for infrastructure development. What they call SBSN, Syariah, government Islamic Sekuritas, focusing in national priority of activity. For example, terluar, 3T, dan lain sebagainya. That's for out border in Indonesia. Conduct strict filter in the selection of SBSN project to minimize change both the planning and implementation stages. Foreign loan, we still have a foreign loan focus on national priority activity, encouraging technology transfer, optimizing use of available fund in Blue Book. PPP, for example, encouraging PPP scheme for user charge-based project, encouraging infrastructure and regional bundling scheme, encouraging the use of availability payment scheme for non-user charge project. Grant and Special Allocation Fund, or what they call sometimes they all Dana Alokasi Khusus or DAK. Strengthening the development, improve the management itself, emphasizing priority of area support through the assignment of Special Allocation Fund. Usually this is for Kabupaten road and also local government. Expanding the regional road grant program to support other national priority, boarding area, remote area, food estate. And this is Indonesian Vision 2045. Oh, okay. Just you have a look what construction growth is basically down, but national economic growth increase. What means that we expect that quality of infrastructure is good, and then build mean then reduce. Next, I think just continue. Next again. Now, this is general policy direction for infrastructure development 2045. First policy is improve physical and virtual connectivity, in encouraging equitable development among regions, provision basic infrastructure, supporting urban and rural development, anticipation of natural disaster and climate change. This is general policy. Next. This is policy direction expanding financing and funding capacity to the future. It's part of public-private partnership, utilization of land value capture, especially for urban, and corporate social responsibility, government asset utilization, limited concession scheme, direct lending, philanthropic fund, blended finance, and municipal development fund, or MDF. So closing highlight the point is infrastructure development still faced with challenging and strategic issues that need to be improved, including the development of more integrated financing and investment scheme. Infrastructure is still a national priority in the long term, with an equitable development approach in line with the principle of rule of carbon development and green economic. Bappenas, now my office is currently focusing on continuing the implementation of development that has been mandated in National Midterm Development Plan, or RPJMN, 2020 and 2024, and preparing the draft policy. Now, draft policy for long-term development plan. Begin with preparation of background study first. That's all, I think, Pak Adi. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pak Budi. I'll come back to you later on more discussion in more detail. But before that, I would like to direct the discussion first to Pak Reza from Kadin. I think Pak Reza is on the, I think it's already directing in virtually. Would like to give opportunity to Pak Reza to discuss some of the pointers here. Maybe just an overview. I think investors are interested if you can actually share to the best what you can share about large projects and what Kadin has given input, such as the Omnibus Law revision or the new capital city. And also on the other side is also just the general mood of the businessman or Kadin about the outlook of Indonesian businesses in the short term. Thank you, Pak Reza. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. Probably I will start by share my slide. Hopefully it can be seen, the slide.
Yes, but we can see it just fine.
Okay. Yes. Basically, this morning I would just like to share some of the perspective from Kadin Indonesia in seeing how investment can be part of the economic growth as one of the engine for the development in Indonesia. And before that, I would just like to share a bit about some of the highlight of the present condition with the COVID pandemic situation, the Russia-Ukraine war, the energy and the food crisis, and also the turbulence that we see in the global financials. Despite all that, we still see that up to now, Indonesia indicators such as the inflation rate, exchange rate, including the stock performance, is I think still among the best among various countries in the world today. We hope that this condition stay in the near future so that development can also continue in Indonesia. Some of the aspect that we see in terms of the rapid and strong economic recovery in Indonesia is on the last 10 straight months, our PMI manufacturing index have been growing and has been increasing in the right track, including also our investment realization in this second quarter of 2022 is also increasing by 35.5%. And then last year, if we remember, we achieved about 901 trillion of the combined foreign and direct investment, including also the domestic direct investment itself. So having said that, what has helped Indonesia so far in regarding to the investment realization is actually about the commitment from the present government and the last 8 years that we all seen in terms of the institutional reform that is being conducted to ensure that all the nation's institution is applying good governance and adaptive to the market changes. Second is also in regarding to the regulatory reform, where we design regulation to foster innovation, competitiveness, and also growth in Indonesia. Last but not least, but also in the aspect of the fiscal reform that we continue support not only in the last 8 years, but also moving forward, that Indonesia is committing to ensure that the reform commitment is in support for the investment and also for the development. I would just like to go straight to update a bit about the various investment opportunities. And also these opportunities will be not only the priority that we are focusing at the moment. Kadin is supporting the Ministry of Investment, BKPM, in the aspect of the investment growth in Indonesia and also the commitment. And today I will also speak about the priority sectors that we are working together on, and also about the pro-investment policies, including also the Omnibus Law that was issued in 2022. And we know that there's some challenges there, and we know also that we are working on that. And last is also to share with you on the investment facilities that has been developed throughout the years that support also our investment achievement throughout the years. Just to share with you, the focus of the investment priorities of Indonesia at the moment lies in these 6 areas, especially for the export-oriented industries that related to the pharmaceuticals, medical devices. And now, as you know, that we are also moving not only in producing or manufacturing pharmaceutical or medical devices, but also starting going to the direction of the medical tourism sectors, which later on I will share on a project that is in Sanur, Bali, for the first integrated healthcare facility that we partner with the Mayo Clinic in the US. Second is the automotive industries. Third is on the electronics. And the last 3 sectors that you see here in the bottom is because of the potential of the Indonesia renewable energy. Therefore, we are also focusing in terms of the development of the renewable energy sectors. And in regard to that, Indonesia is already very committed on the carbon zero emission initiative on the energy transition, not only for the global commitment, but also to differentiate our future strength in developing our economy moving forward. Mining is another priority of our investment priorities, especially not only in conducting the mining itself or selling our commodities, but also in the downstreaming initiative that we are now doing. And probably later on, you will also see some of the example that I will share in regarding to the nickel mining, where we are creating a value-added downstream activities or investment and development all the way to the EV battery, for example. And as you heard earlier from Pak Budi, infrastructure will still remain the main focus of Indonesia investment sector priority moving forward. Just to touch base a bit about the economic policies that the government has support for not only the development of investment as the engine of our growth, but also in terms of to support our trade internationally. And this is some of the policy packages since 2015 that we have seen to harmonize the regulation, to simplify the bureaucratic process, and also to ensure that the law is enforceable in different kind of level in the government aspect. This is just to share with you some of the thematics issues of the economic policy packages that we've seen from the 6 policy issued since 2015 all the way down to 2017. And of course, the reform continues in the agraria sectors, in the energy sectors, including also in the digital and creative economy. An interesting topic, I think was being mentioned earlier, is in regarding to the Omnibus Law. It has actually, by the issuance of the law in 2020, the objective is actually how to support Indonesia continuous economic growth, but at the same time also to create employment, but also to help in the improvement, the ease of doing business at the same time. But what we've seen also after in the early time of the pandemic, the Omnibus Law is actually allowing us to reset and transform our economic activities and also in investment moving forward. And this is just some of the area of the Omnibus Law regarding to job creations, starting from improving the investment ecosystem and the business activities, the land procurement, all the way down to the special economic zone, including also the aspect of employment. And all of this resetting and also economic transformation to answer to the fundamental challenges that we face is actually to support the target of the 2045, where we can achieve to become one of the developed countries in the world. And hopefully that we can achieve to be number 4 or number 5 as the biggest global economy moving forward. And as you've seen here on the screen, this is just some of the fundamental challenges that we see. And hopefully through this Omnibus Law that we can do some economic transformation from the various challenges that we see. And the one-stop service, the OSS, has actually make a key difference in Indonesia investment activities from our foreign, including our direct investment, as I've been active also in the roadshow throughout various countries. And as we speak, I'm at the moment in Ecuador also promoting the Indonesia trade and investment activity. They are surprised in terms of our ability to offer the one-stop services that basically is an integration of a variety of licenses that need to be supported by different kind of ministries or government agencies under one roof. Of course, one of the key thing of the area of revamping and the improvement of our one-stop services is how to integrate from the National Office of BKPM all the way down to the province and also the municipalities, so that the seamless of the process can be, of course, be improved and much more better. And hopefully, this is one of the aspects that also Kadin is speaking to BKPM to, of course, improve the OSS implementation in Indonesia. Another aspect that to support the development of the investment is, of course, our investment incentive, not only in regarding to the tax holiday, where we have 5 to 15 years of tax exemption, and with the potential all the way down to the 25 years of tax exemption, especially for the special economic zone projects. And this is just some of the 9 eligible pioneer industries that is at the moment can get the benefit of this tax holiday. Another aspect is also in regarding to the import duty facilities. If investors are bringing in machines, bringing in goods or materials for productions, the range is between 2 to 4 years of the import duty facilities. And there's about 145 business sectors that's eligible also for our tax allowance. So in total, every 5 years you can reduce your tax allowance from your net income up all the way down to 6 years. And this is just some of the great incentive of investment that the government have provided for foreign investment coming into Indonesia, as an example. Another aspect is that how we are able to also streamline the capital goods that is coming to Indonesia through a green line acceleration facilities to reduce the custom clearance process up to date to the half day. And this facilities was launched in 2015. And of course, again, what is key is to ensure that the policy is really implementing consistently also on a timely manner, not only for now, but also moving forward. So there's a consistency of policy that is being implemented. Another aspect to support the development of the nation, bonded logistics centers is being developed in many areas throughout the nations, starting the first stage of the development in 2016, and it's also many more projects that's now being developed throughout the nation. And one of the aspects that Kadin is also promoting at the moment is on the outward investment, and to create a strategic trade relationship between Indonesia and specific countries. For example, as we are here now in the Latin America countries, is how to choose, for example, from Panama and Ecuador to become the hub for Indonesia coming into the Latin America and the Caribbean countries, for example. And in order to have this competitiveness of our product penetration to this market and vice versa, it is important to also to create some kind of a bonded logistics center to make the trade much more easier. So this is also another aspect of investment, not only bringing in investment, but also outward investment to establish the infrastructure to support our international trade moving forward. Just some information updates in regarding to our investment opportunities. As I mentioned earlier, downstreams of industry and green energy is also a priority that we are now promoting internationally, but also locally. And as you know, this is just some of the example. We are not sending or exporting our commodities like nickel ore, but we are starting creating a value add from the nickel ore to an iron or steel products for export, all the way down to the future lithium battery that is now being implemented in Sulawesi on the syllabus area. And this is just some of the example of the streamlining of the downstream of the nickel in Morowali Industrial Park, with export of around 9.6 billion potential, and also it will of course increase moving forward. So this is just an example of how does it look, the example of an industrial park of our downstream initiative. Another aspect in regarding to this downstreaming activity, we have heard some commitment and many more commitment coming in, and this is just some of the companies from Tesla, Ford, Volkswagen, BASF that's also committed in coming in for the future development in this arena. And the impact of this strategy of the downstream of the industry, it creates more equal development, not only in the Java region, but also throughout the regions, especially in the eastern part of Indonesia. In 2020, for example, North Maluku has the biggest investment coming into Indonesia compared to the investment that's been conducted in Java, for example. So we've seen that, you know, activities like this, investment initiative like this, have really drive the equality in developing, you know, the eastern part or the central part of Indonesia. Again, an example of another industrial park in Kalimantan that will be also a game changer. This is another blue industrial park concept that is coming up and coming, and it will be use a full energy source from the renewable energy, especially in hydropower and also the solar cell. It is important for us to start to establishing the investment in the area of the industrial park that is a green energy base, is because at the moment the world is moving toward a sustainable approach type of businesses, and therefore Kadin is very committed and driving the Indonesian private sector to also go into the ESG, environmental, social, and also the government aspect, the governance aspect in terms of how we do business, because the trend is going into that direction, and therefore Indonesia need to also be prepared the infrastructure, its ways of doing business more toward the sustainable and the green concept of development. And by doing so, it will also support us on our emission target through our integrated economic development that is focusing on the sustainable and the green development concept.
So,
This is just
apologize, Pak Reza, if you don't mind, if you
Yes.
could kindly wrap up in a few minutes.
Yes.
Thank you, sorry about
Probably
that.
I will just jump on some of the example of the investment, but another aspect that I would probably jump directly is that through the G20 and also the B20, Kadin and also with the government will take this opportunity to use this forum of the G20 to become a dialogue forum for the global business community with our theme of advancing innovative and also inclusive through a collaborative growth. And the hope that the aim is that to create an actionable recommendation to spur the economic growth and development across the G20 nation specifically, but also to our other countries that we will be inviting. There's about several task force that we are focusing at the moment, from trade and investment, energy, sustainable and climate, finance and infrastructure, integrity and compliance, and so on. So hopefully with this, Indonesia can establish a legacy, but at the same time, a foundation for our development moving forward. Having said that, the investment for collaboration for growth that we are also focusing from the Kadin side is to also to bring in a strategic alliances between nations on a product level. So for example, if we would like to be number one or number two as a nation moving forward in the automotive industry, so probably we can collaborate with nation that has the good strength in the technology in the automotive, in the metal industry, where we can offer not only the natural resources, but also the human resources as one, and also including the energy, renewable energy as a base to collaborate and establish one product, a joint alliance product, then where we can co-create, co-produce, and co-market together. Another aspect of investing in the future, of building the future sustainable communities, is an opportunity where Indonesia can also participate in the global market to define the digital economy moving forward. So one of the aspects in this year that the president have done is to launch the new era of Bali moving forward as a roadmap, where it's basically based on the Bali principle that lies into the combination of spirit, earth, and also the human being, and therefore we see the opportunity of creating a global digital hub in the form of Bali Silicon Valley. And through this hub that we can link to different kind of digital hub park, for example, in San Jose, in Shanghai, in Germany, in Australia, for us to co-create, co-produce, and co-market the products of the futures. Basically, that is just some ideas of how Kadin is playing a role at the moment in reviving the investment as the growth engine for Indonesia moving forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pak Reza. There's definitely aspect of your presentation that will be interesting to discuss later. But before that, I would like to give the opportunity for Pak Edi Purwanto from INA to share about, this is interesting because after hearing from the regulator, businessmen, now we can finally hear from investing side, the investors, about what do you think INA is paying attention to, especially with Indonesia facing a lot of global uncertainty. How has that influenced the investment decisions? Yes, please, Pak Edi, the floor is yours.
Oke, terima kasih. Thank you Pak Hadi. Selamat pagi, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's my pleasure to be here. Given INA or Lembaga Pengelolaan Investasi, that's the way we are called in Bahasa Indonesia. We are newly established organizations. I would like to give you a brief introduction of what we are, who we are, and what we have been doing in the past 16 months, and what are our sectoral priorities and so on. And obviously, given the nature of our business, given the potential investment that we'll be doing, I may not be in the liberty to speak in details because of the confidentiality reason. Okay, without further ado, INA or INA is, we are an independent, sui generis entity which is established through Law number 11 of 2020, which is known as the Job Creation Law, and also established through the Government Regulation number 74. We are unique organization, sui generis entity, and for a number of reasons. I'll explain to that, I'll come back in a bit later. Our mandate, which is different from other entities that you may find in the country. Number one, we are primarily a commercial entity which is required to generate optimal risk-adjusted return. Secondly, in making our investment, we are supposed to attract capital, be it sovereign, from private or from others, to co-invest commercially together with us. So one of our mandate is indeed to help increase the investor confidence to invest in Indonesia. And thirdly, our mandate is we are established to support sustainable development and to boost economic growth through our investment. Now, going back to the earlier statement that I made about being a sui generis entity, there are several unique features. Among others are, number one, well, we are owned by the government of Indonesia, and we are an independent organization. INA as an organization, we report directly to the president. As of now, we are already fully capitalized, 100% owned by government of Indonesia with $5 billion of capitalization. Now, we, in carrying out our duties or our mandate, we do have full flexibility in making our investment and in managing our investment. We could invest on deal-by-deal basis together with our partners. We could create a platforms, or we can even go to as far as the GP, LP format that you guys usually find in the private equity space. We could also provide some lending opportunities to the potential assets. So again, we are given a full flexibility to structure and to manage our investment. Now, another unique feature of INA is that we have bankruptcy protections. Before we can be brought down to court, for example, for bankruptcy, it has to be some independent test, whether we are solvent or insolvent. So what we call independent solvency test has to be carried out first. And INA is established through the job creation law, through the law, so therefore it can only be dissolved through the law. So that gives us a very solid legal ground that will increase the confidence of our partners to co-invest together in Indonesia. And last but not least, for our partners, we do have tax incentive that could be beneficial depending on where is your origins. I wouldn't go into details on that one, but obviously we can look at it case by case basis. Next slide, please. I wouldn't discuss this much. Perhaps we can we can skip to the next slide. Okay, this is the way INA is structured. There are two tier boards. The first one is being called Supervisory Board, which is consisting of ex officio Minister of Finance as the chairman, and as the chairwoman, and also ex officio Minister of SOE. And there are 3 independent professionals, board members, coming from a different background. I'll come back later on who they are. Basically, the role of the supervisory board is to give supervision to board of directors in managing or running the day-to-day operations of INA. And the board of supervisors also have the authority to appoint or to replace the board of directors. There are 5 members of the board of directors. They're all professionals. I can come back later on who they are. And basically, our role is to manage day-to-day operations of INA and also to make the investment or divestment decisions. Next slide, please. We are committed to a strong, good corporate governance, and we are also committed to uphold a good investment management practices. So for that reason, we join International Forum of Sovereign Wealth Fund since May 2021, not long after our establishment. Our status right now is associate members, and we are on the way to become a full member, where we will be needing to comply with the 24 Santiago principles. Next slide, please. These are the professional members of our Board of Supervisors. I think, hopefully, perhaps, and I believe that most of you know these 3 individuals. They are they have a strong reputations in the market and in Indonesia with in their respective field. So the professional board members basically combining have deep expertise around investment, legal, regulatory, corporate governance, as well as risk management. Next slide. So these are the composition of the board of directors. Pak Rida, ex-CEO of Bank Permata, and he has long careers in the financial institutions as the CEO of INA. And Pak Arif Budiman as the Deputy CEO. He was CEO of McKinsey Indonesia, he was CFO Pertamina, and he was CEO of Dana Reksa. And also Pak Stefanus, who was the Managing Director of Creador, a private equity institution in Indonesia. Bu Marita, long-timer in Citibank, probably one of the most, if not the most senior risk manager in the country, and myself as the CFO of INA. Next slide. Now, what have we been doing in the past 16 to 18 months? I have to say that Indonesia stands out during this crisis and the recovery period. I think, the global investor is very pleased to see the establishment of INA as well, beside the economic recovery and the continued resiliency of the Indonesian economy. We have gathered potential commitment to invest together with us. Surely it depends on the viability and commercially of the projects. Altogether, up to now, we have signed up to $25 billion to invest in various sectors in the country. For example, next slide, please. We have deployed one investment together with ADIA, which is sovereign wealth fund from UAE, together with ADG and GIC. We joined the initial public offering of Mitratel, and we were acting as an anchor investor there. We also formed toll road platforms together with ADIA, APG, which is a pension fund out of Netherlands, and CDPQ out of Canada. Together, we have 3.75 billion value worth of toll road platform. We are currently actively, working on deals. We have reviewed 35 toll roads, and we are closing in on 5 toll roads that we do hope to complete in the foreseeable future. With DP World, we also have collaborations amounting to $7.5 billion. This collaboration is focusing on seaport opportunities, ADG, sector agnostics, commitment up to $10 billion, and also the most recently signed with Circular Fund, which is a sovereign wealth fund out of China, amounting to $3 billion. This is also open in terms of sectors where to invest. Next slide. Now, people generally ask, what do you like to invest, where do you like to invest, and how? Well, perhaps, I think I touch a bit on how. How, basically, we are pretty much flexible on how we want to, partner up with our co-investors. It could be deal-by-deal basis. It could be together we could create a platforms, or we can go to the extreme, the GPLP structure. But in terms of the sectors, while we are generally open to what sectors, we need to consider ESG. So those ESG is definitely coming strong in our considerations. And in terms of sectors that we are open we are prioritizing is infrastructure and logistics. This is consisting of toll roads, seaport, airport, industrial real estate, logistic, warehousing, and so on. We are also very interested or prioritize green energy and transformations. We are actively in discussion with various stakeholders on energy transition mechanism, where we are looking to bring forward the lifetime or accelerate the lifetime of the coal-fired power plant and replace that with investment in renewable sectors. We are also very keen in digital infrastructure and also in the digitalizations. And we are also very keen and very, active in the healthcare space. There are a number of live deals we are working on. So these are the priority sectors that we are very interested, and those potential investors that I have highlighted before are currently actively working together with us. Pak Adi, perhaps that's the end of my brief introductions, Pak Adi. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pak Adi, for your presentation. we'll now open the floor for Q&A. I'll take a look at if there's any question from the Zoom, but if there's anyone who wants to ask question from the floor, please raise your hand and we can help also to give the mic to you, please.
Thank you very much for the insightful presentation, gentlemen. My name is Adrian from Samo Asset Management. I would like to ask to all speakers about the recent developments on new capital city project, IKN, probably from Pak Budi and Pak Edi, about the financing scheme and then the development in the near future, considering that 2024 is only less than 2 years from now. Thank you.
Maybe we can start from each speaker to the best of what you can share.
Thank you very much. You're asking. Sorry. You're asking about something that very difficult for me to answer, because the IKN itself, New Capital City itself, although have already been the authority, but the organization itself hasn't been established. But to develop it has already been the concept itself. Basically, the financing is beside government budget, also private budget. So that's why the concept itself is totally is 2,050 hectare, and just only 50 hectare is for capital city itself. So that's what they call is forest city, smart city, or something like that. And then in 50 hectare of capital city, only 50% of the capital itself for building, road, and anything else. Now has already been built, preparing first for what they call istana, and then road, and also other part, for example, preparing for autonomous car and other else. And then 80% of them is public transport. 20 is private, and 5 is something like government, for the government. So that's why if they invest for IKN itself, basically in for smart city, for the transportation and building. So that's why to build, for example, apartment, this is by private, of course. We tender it for private. And public infrastructure, of course, is by government. I think that's one that I can give you the information. So not only government itself, but also a private. Thank you.
Thank you, Pak Budi. On the same question, I will try to ask Pak Reza, Pak, if there is anything you can share on it from the businessman side about the inputs that or involvement of businessmen from Kadin side. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. Yes, in regarding to the new capital cities, as being mentioned by Pak Budi, the participation of the private sectors is also requested. And therefore, what Kadin is also promoting at the moment, especially on the investment side, is also introducing the capital project to the variety of potential investor globally. Especially because our capital is really as the concept of a green concept capital. So usually we are inviting a variety of institutions globally to come into the project. For example, just something simple, that's just happened in the last 2 months, where we conduct a roadmap, a visit to Germany, for example, and we had a meeting, for example, with a company called Merck, where Merck is not only a pharmaceutical company, but it has advanced itself with technology development in the areas of energy or green energy. So, for example, they have developed something that is relating to the green concept of windows, to ensure that the energy efficiency is there. So we are also inviting this type of company to come in to take part of the participation of the development of IKN. So that is basically what Kadin is doing internationally and also locally for the participation of the private sectors.
Thank you, Pak Reza. Eddie, maybe from Misha, if there's anything you can comment.
Okay, thank you, Pak Adi. Okay, I think as for the capital city, INA, I think you might have seen that we've been quoted to be involved there on the financing and so on. But we have potential partners that there is prerequisite there is our mandate that we need to invest together with our partners on project by project basis, and we will need to be sure that the project is commercially viable in order to attract our partners to come in, because our capital $5 billion actually, to be honest, is not a lot given the space, given the requirement to improve the infrastructure in the country. So INA is ready to support, and together with our partners, and on depending on the projects that is available. Thank you.
Thank you, Pak Edi. We have one time for one more question before we wrap up at 11:45. Yes, please. I think there's a gentleman here who wants to ask a question.
Thank you, gentlemen, for the presentation. It's a very insightful one. I'm Hamid from BPJS Tenaga I would like to ask a question perhaps to Pak Edi from INA-SWF regarding where you stated that at the moment your focus is to gain optimal return, risk-adjusted return. So you are working with a few sovereign wealth fund from overseas. Does it mean that in the future, is that possibility that you are also looking into overseas investment? And also, if that's the case, and do you think that's something that's feasible going forward for INA-SWF, and does it allow you to do so? That's all from me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Pak Amit. On paper, we could invest overseas. However, realistically speaking, given our capitals and given the need and requirements in Indonesia, I think our focus in the next, 5 years would be to invest in Indonesia. But if, for example, we have progress as such, and in the future we could always look at opportunities to invest overseas.
Thank you, Pak Edi. I think there's Pak Budi here wants to share on the follow-up on the first question on New Capital City. If you don't mind, if I can ask for the host to show the last slide and the appendix from Pak Budi's presentation from Bappenas side.
Yes.
I think there's one slide 31.
Yeah, 31 if that's
31.
possible. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, this one.
Oh yes, this one. That's 31, right? Yeah, I think you can have a look. This private investment is 28%, and totally investment is about 334.56 billion, and then government budget is 19%, while private investment 28%, and then public-private partnership 53%. Yeah, okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. We have time for one last question before 11:45. Yeah, please. Can help this gentleman over here. Oh, yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much for this opportunity. I would like to ask to Pak Edipo. Let me introduce myself. My name is Barley from BP Jamsostek. Pak Edi, as we know that the sovereign wealth fund in overseas, especially in Western Union countries and Singapore, they use the government fund, right? And the government fund inject to sovereign wealth fund. So the problem is Indonesia now has a deficit in our government budget. It is different with the other case in overseas, some like other countries, advanced countries and Western Union or Western European countries and Singapore. They have a surplus in their budget, government budget, then put the money into the sovereign wealth fund. And it should be their sovereign wealth fund sustainable in the future. So how do we see this challenging for ENA in the future, because we have a deficit in government budget? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Pak. Yes, you are right. In many other countries, sovereign wealth fund was established from excess budget or excess, surplus in fiscal. I think the question is very valid, and we will need to, if there is a future funding requirements, then we'll, number one, right today, we'll have to be very, very efficient in deploying our capital. That's number one. Okay, we now have $5 billion, and we'll need to leverage or get the multiplier as much as possible. Not leverage dalam arti using a debt, but we want to optimize the leverage of our co-investment. So, for example, in the toll road, we in the platform we are taking 20% stake, while 80% stake was among ADIA, APG, and CDPQ. That's the first thing. How we can optimize the multiplications of our fund versus the co-investment fund. Okay. Secondly, we will need to explore, other funding options. Potentially, the long future, after our fund, our capital, is utilized up, then we could look potentially to issue bonds, for example. Or we can also look at to source funding from domestics, for example, working together with domestic institutions. So there are many other opportunities to further get some additional capital in the future. And in the law itself, actually on paper, the government potentially may inject additional money into sovereign wealth fund, into INA. But again, we as INA's board of directors, I think we would like to explore as much as possible all options that is potentially available. Thank you.
Thank you, Pak Edi. I think unfortunately, for the interest of time, we have to wrap up the session. I would like to thanks all the speakers again here for attending the event today, Pak Budi, Pak Reza, and also Pak Edi. For the next event, for those who are attending this offline, we'll have the lunch served at Cuisine Restaurant now. Before starting again on the next session at 1 p.m. That will be on the political related topics discussion, also at the same place here. So if you can kindly join that as well. But for now, I would like to thank everyone who have attended this, and also those participating from the Zoom or online. I wish you thank you, and I wish you good health.